Hi everybody, sorry I'm late. This evening we had internet issues again, so unfortunately that's what delayed me. So you're all welcome to this week's Midlife Wisdom series with myself, Yvonne Clark. And what we're going to be covering tonight is archetypes and angel cards readings. So during the week people have been submitting their issue in relation to what's happening for them in midlife, and I'm going to be doing readings with the archetype cards and with the angel cards, and I'm just trying to sort out my connection here as I'm speaking to you, so bear with me for a minute until I get that sorted and get things up and running for this evening. So just bear with me as I'm working through the network issues that I'm having, and hopefully you'll all be able to see me and hear me and join me for this session. Okay, thanks to everyone who's joined. Gillian, you're welcome. And so, as I said, we're going to be doing archetype readings and working with angel cards. So I wanted to talk first of all, as people are joining in, why I'm doing these midlife series on Facebook Live. Okay, so for those who just come across the video and don't know me, or people who may not have tuned in before, my name is Yvonne Clark and I'm a midlife empowerment mentor and healer for many years now, and I work with predominantly midlife women overcoming the challenges that they're facing at the midlife point in their lives. Midlife is particularly difficult for some and for most because there's a lot of changes that happen at midlife, both physically within ourselves and also to our lives going on around us, in the changes in our relationships and changes in our health, changes in our physical appearance, all of that, and the fact that we're become very aware of our mortality and where we want to be going forward and what we want to do. So that's basically the crux of why I'm doing this series, so that I can give tips and strategies for women who are going through midlife challenge. And tonight, the other sessions that I've done live on Facebook, if you haven't seen them all, they're all on my Facebook page at yvonneclark.com, and that's also my website. So, but tonight we're going to be doing, as I said, the archetype readings and using angel cards to do readings for people. So I invited people last week on the live session, but also during the week on the page, people to submit their questions in relation to what's going on for them that's causing them an issue predominantly now at midlife, and so that I could have some people to work with in the live session for readings. Hopefully I'll get through them all. There was quite a few submissions, and that's fantastic. Thanks for all those. And if you haven't submitted already your question, you can still submit it in the comments below this video, and if I can, I will get to those as well. So first of all, I wanted to talk a little about archetypes and the archetype card. So what is an archetype and what is it all about? Well, archetypes go back, predate Caroline Myss in the last few years has been talking a lot about archetypes, and on her website you'll see a lot of information about archetypes. She's written books called Soul Contracts, in which she talks everybody through the different archetypes in her archetype deck, which I'm going to be using tonight. And but the whole concept of archetypes dates back to Carl Jung, the psychologist, who had a theory in relation to the collective unconscious and the fact that our soul is born connected to 12 core archetypes that are the structural governing patterns of our life this time around. So there are some of the archetypes that are common to all, and there are some archetypes that come in to our psyche. Like there's, of the 12, there's 4 common to all. So the 4 that are common to all would be the victim archetype, which is self-explanatory when we all feel we're the victim in life. There's the saboteur, which is all about how we sabotage our own life going forward and the actions we take. And that's, the saboteur is what's active behind the scenes in our collective unconscious in relation to our lives, and it's bringing about the actions we take. So we're acting from the saboteur when we're sabotaging ourselves in our life. The prostitute, and it's not, hopefully we're not actively doing this as a job in our life, but the prostitute is about how we negotiate with others in our life to achieve what we want. So how do we use our negotiation skills? Do we use them positively or negatively to get what we want? And the other expression archetype that is common to all is that we all have a common child archetype, a connection to a child. So within us, our inner child, our soul's inner child, and we all have that in us. And there are a number of different archetypes for the child, and I'll go through those a little later on. So they're the 4 common archetypes that we all act out of in our lives. So as well as those 4, we each have then a configuration of 8 additional archetypes assigned to our soul that fill out our 12 archetypes, the main 12 pattern activities that we work through and work out of in our lives. So other archetypal patterns are, you'll see they all have a name, like the judge or the dilettante or the prince or the princess, the goddess. These are all archetypes that we might work from within our lives and that influence our lives along the way. But our core 12 remain with us throughout each life, forming that which is consistent about our nature throughout our lives. So archetypes are basically, they're patterns of action, they're patterns of behaviour, which are part of our collective unconscious, which we tap into and that govern our behaviour and how we play out our interactions with others in the world in our everyday lives. So as well as the 12, which make up the core of us, other archetypes pop in to our unconscious and are the origin of our behaviours at different times and when we encounter different situations in our lives. So we dip into many archetypal patterns in our lifetime. Each of the archetype cards, which I'm not going to go through, you can see is a huge deck of cards, and some may be familiar with them and some may not, but each card has these are Caroline Myss cards based on her book Soul Contracts, for anyone who's interested in finding out more about them. They have a light, what she calls a light attribute and a shadow attribute. And no more than, when we're working with angel cards, we also have the light and the shadow in those as well, in the readings that we do with them. So each of the cards are archetyped patterns or cards have a light and shadow aspect, which can be loosely aligned with positive and negative, or what I like to call the empowering being the light aspect, and the shadow aspect being that which actually is a disempowering action that we act out in our lives. So it's one that doesn't help us moving forward. It's a destructive pattern, if you like, or a damaging pattern. Whereas the light ones, the light patterns of the archetypes would be helpful, empowering, positive and fulfilling sides of our actions. So if you're experiencing a challenge in your life today, it can be extremely useful to become consciously aware of which archetypes that are active. And as I said, we have the 12 core ones, 4 of which are common to all, the victim, the saboteur, the prostitute and the child, the inner child archetype. And then we have the 8 others which we have to sort out for ourselves. In other words, through the book Soul Contracts, you can identify your other 8 archetypes. This sounds like an advert for Caroline Myss, but actually I have the book, I've read the book, and I would highly recommend it to people. I do actually follow Caroline because she's an intuitive, sensitive, and a teacher in the spiritual realm. So I enjoy her work a lot. So, and she talks a lot of sense. So when we're acting, a lot of the time we're acting unconscious patterns out, and these are when the archetypes are kicking in unconsciously. So being aware of, in the challenges that we have in our everyday lives, which of the archetypes we're actually acting from, even unconsciously. So we can become consciously aware, and it's important to become consciously aware of the archetype that we're working out of, and whether we're working out of the light side of it, or the shadow side of it, or the empowering side, or the disempowering side, as I like to call it. So by knowing which archetype is active, you can then gain a deeper understanding of which aspect of the archetype that you're acting out of, as I say, in the particular challenge or situation that you find yourself in with others, or in your life generally, and perhaps to question that. So it's about, first of all, being aware, like it is in all spiritual work. It's about awareness, number one, and it's also about questioning then, is it a helpful pattern that we're working from, or are we working from the shadow side perhaps when we should be working from the light side? And what are the alternatives that are open to us in the particular situation that we find ourselves in? So becoming aware of the archetypes and which side of the archetype is active in our lives, in our psyche, and which is driving our behaviour, then is a useful tool to questioning ourselves and becoming aware of how we can move forward in an empowering way. So we then can consciously choose how we interact with others, but sometimes we are acting unconsciously, and this is when we're acting from an unconscious archetypal pattern. Being aware of that unconscious pattern or force allows us to become conscious again and to make conscious choices, ones that realign us with our soul contract, which we came here to act out, and which will empower us and the other person, rather than continue to lock us into an unconscious behaviour which disempowers both of you, and both you and the person that you're interacting with in the particular challenge or situation, if others are involved, directly or indirectly. So like the stone that's dropped into calm waters, it creates a ripple. So every action that we take creates either a positive or negative consequence in our life. So it's important to become conscious of our actions and the origin of our choice. And I use the archetype cards with clients, my midlife clients, so they become consciously aware of the archetype within their personality, which is active in their life at present and which is impacting their current situation or challenge. So it's the driving force behind their actions. So tonight I'm going to do live readings for anyone who has submitted their questions to me during the week. And if you didn't get the chance to do that, you can still actively get involved now by putting up your situation that you want help with in the live comments here. And hopefully, if I have time, I will get at least to pull one card from both the angel deck and the archetype deck for you. So please ask your question about your midlife challenge in the comments now, and I will do the reading for you, as I say, as soon as I can tonight. So you can gain some insight into what may be actively impacting your challenge, and so you can gain an understanding about what is going on archetypally in relation to this in your life today. Okay, so as I said, some people have already submitted their questions to me as I asked them to during the week. But before I go into the actual readings, I mentioned the child archetype, that we all have an inner child archetype, and we can actually, it can change in relation as we change throughout our lives. Our inner child can develop as we develop. So we're not always tuned into the same inner child. And depending on how we spiritually evolve as we live our lives, then our child consciousness pattern can change as well. So, but just to go through, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 child archetype types, and they are, just quickly, the names are the nature child. So the nature child's light attribute would be those who are feel connected to animals or nature spirits, or have a strong connection to nature generally. And the shadow, like I say, all the archetype cards have a light and shadow aspect. So the shadow of the inner child, that's the nature child, is a tendency to abuse animals or people or the environment. So if you're acting out of the shadow of the nature child, you would be acting to not have respect for nature and not have respect for animals or people. Then we have the wounded child, who is, we've all, I'm sure, touched into the wounded child at some point in our development. And the light aspect would be, it awakens compassion and desire to serve other wounded children, opens the learning path of forgiveness. So being a wounded child can actually open up your ability to be compassionate and your ability to forgive others by actually working through your own wounded child issues in your own life as you develop. Now, if you're acting out of the shadow aspect of the wounded child, you would be blaming all your dysfunctional relationships on childhood wounds, and resist moving on through forgiveness. So the wounded child that's stuck or that's disempowering herself or himself would be stuck in the concept of, blaming others and for their childhood wounds, and constantly resisting moving on through allowing themselves to forgive the relevant people, so as to release themselves from continuing to revisit that pain on their soul. The divine child is the next of the 6 child archetypes, and the divine child is, in its light attribute, is innocence, purity and redemption, and suggests a special connection with the divine. So the divine child would be, to me, would be a very spiritual child, a child who's connected on a spiritual level, probably highly sensitive to others and their you know, their ability to psychically read others and so on. So the divine child would have that attribute in the light, and in the shadow, an inability to defend oneself against negative forces. So they don't protect themselves. They leave themselves open to attack by, as we know, that in the spiritual realm we have, like everywhere, the opposite to light is the darkness. And both have to exist. One can't exist without the other. And each has a purpose. So it's not about, you know, negative. It's about lessons as much as anything. The next child archetype is the orphan child. And the orphan child is, in its light aspect, would be about independence based on learning to learning to go it alone. So the orphan child would have learned to go it alone, would have gained strength from that and have conquered their fear of surviving alone. In the shadow aspect, they would have feelings of abandonment and that stifle their ability to mature in life, and seeking inappropriate surrogate families. So they go around seeking other families, other connections to stop them feeling what they need to heal within themselves, which is their fear of not surviving and their fear of going it alone. So that's the orphan child. The second last child archetype is the eternal child. And the eternal child in its light aspect is determination to remain young in body, mind and spirit, the ability to see things with fresh eyes. So that's a really positive ability to have, or skill to have. So if you have that within your psyche, then you're most likely connected to the archetype of the eternal child. In its shadow aspect, though, it would have an inability to grow up and be responsible, extremely dependent on others for physical security. So the eternal child wants to remain the eternal child, constantly dependent on others, unwilling to accept responsibility in their own lives for their own actions. And the last child archetype is the magical child. Seeing the potential for sacred beauty in all things and the belief that everything is possible. So that would be the magical child's belief in the light attribute of the card, or the archetype, the child, magical child. So they would see life through, some would say, rose-coloured glasses, or that they think everything has potential, everything is possible. Some who may not believe that would view them as naive, but it's a beautiful skill to have, to see life in that light. But in the shadow aspect of the magical child, they would be suffering with pessimism and depression and disbelief in miracles, believing that energy and action are not required for growth. So that would be the magical child who's denying their light aspect, or who's living unconsciously in that energy. So, okay, so hi to everyone who's joined, Angela and Patricia and Gillian and Teresa and everyone else who's here. If I haven't seen your name, sorry if I haven't mentioned you. So the first thing I want to do then is I'm going to talk by using as well the angel cards that I'm using. I don't know what they're called, but these are the ones that I use all the time. They're Doreen Virtue deck, and they're just really beautiful cards. The artwork on them is fantastic, and I find them very very accurate in any readings that I do with people. So for all those who work with angel cards, or who would like to work with any of these cards, the first thing you need to do when you buy a deck of cards, just quickly talk you through, you need to cleanse the cards regularly. They come in with an energy out of the box from the manufacturing. So obviously you need to clear the energy of the cards when you get them. You need to, handle each of the cards individually, so that you are putting your energy into the cards and your intention into the cards, so that these are going to give you clear readings either for yourself, or if you're doing readings for others, you can put that intention into the cards as well. But handle the cards and look at the pictures and connect with them on a physical level first. And then you can sage the cards. If you've done a reading for somebody or yourself, remember to sage the cards or clear the cards, leave them in moonlight, or asking the angels to cleanse the cards. And the Archangel Zadkiel would be the cleansing angel, and also Gabriel would be connected to purity and cleanliness and clearing. So these cards are very beautiful, and as I say, cleanse your cards often. You can also knock 3 times on any cards to clear energy with the intention. As we know in spiritual work, everything is done with intention and through intention. So it's about knocking on the cards, clearing them with the intention of clearing their energy, so that they are clear again from whoever you are reading for, their energy and your own energy in relation to that reading, so that the readings are clear from one person to the next. And okay, so that's the Angel Oracle cards. Doreen Virtue's the one who is the most angel cards. There are many others who have angel cards. I just particularly like this deck, so I use them quite a bit when I'm doing my readings with people. And I would have cleared these archetype cards tonight. Before I started, I would cleanse both decks, and I would have, before I start doing the reading now, I'm going to be connecting with the energy of the first person who's asked for a reading. And let's talk a little bit about the first person who's asked for a reading. And I'm not doing these actually in the first person who asked, but the person who may be here online with us at the moment, Angela. And Angela is asked me about something about her job. You know, there's stuff going on with her job, and she wants guidance on what to do in relation to that. So the first thing I want to look at as well is, because part of the questions that I asked people were to give me their date of birth, because I wanted to tune into the numeric connection as well as to the life code of the person I'm reading for, because that's also important. And if you've heard of the Kabbalah or the Tree of Life, or it's tied into the on that tree. If anyone who's watched Heidi Sawyer knows about life codes and how she's tied in the numerology and the Kabbalah together into what she calls the life codes, and they too have a positive and negative side that each life code has. So the first person is Angela, as I say, and she's asked me to do some reading for her in relation to guidance on her job. Okay, we're back, I think. So sorry about that. It may happen intermittently. But, okay, so Angela is, from her date of birth, I can tell you she's a life code 3. So the 3 energy is about the ultimate female vibration and frequency. So the life code 3 is about earth energy, known as the mother nature, and often symbolized by the Virgin Mary. So symbolically, this refers to an energy frequency in its true state and holds the key to life. The life code 3, someone who's great to be around and interact with, quite an entertaining character. They're great as friends, and they lift anyone's spirit who interacts with them. That's on the positive side. They learn easily and quickly about things in life, and they have a good understanding of life generally, and also they're quite good for advice because they have the mother energy, so they've quite a good interaction in that respect as well. They get very excited about life and about things that are happening in their lives, and but often then they find that they drift, that energy drifts suddenly, and they can move into the negative side, which is that they feel equally, you know, quickly, they can go down very quickly. So in relation to the reading for Angela, okay, that's who the life code 3 is. They can be a little bit obsessive, the life code 3 as well. Their energy can move into very analytical and quite overpowering at times. They're so in tune with love as the mother energy that sometimes they can smother others. That's in the disempowering side of it. But the first card I want to pick for Angela is the child that she's acting from in her life at the moment. Not necessarily the one that is most active all of the time since she was born, but it's the one that's active now, because as I say, as we evolve, our inner child evolves with us. So we don't necessarily stick with the same child all of the time. And like all the archetypes, different archetypes can be affecting our behaviour and our actions at the moment, at any given time. So I'm thinking of Angela as I'm flipping through the cards of the child archetype, and I'm going to pull out the card for the child that's most active in Angela's life at present, and I've been told it's this card. So the nature child, and that is the inner child that is most active for Angela at the moment. And Angela, if you're listening, that means that basically you will have a love of animals, a love of nature, a love of walking in nature, perhaps interacting with nature quite often, and you find it fulfills you. It gives you new energy, it gives you fresh energy. So if you deny yourself that, you can find yourself going down quite quickly. So I'm going to, in these readings, I'm just going to find out the inner child first, and then I'm going to work through in relation to the question. So what's going on, what's in store, or what she needs to do in relation to her current job. So obviously there's a challenge in Angela's current job, and we need to look at what pattern or what's going on for her at the moment. So let's see what we can gain from the archetypes in relation to what's going on for Angela in this situation. Okay, it's interesting. The first card that's come out is the slave archetype, and so Angela perhaps feels like she is a slave, surrendering her power of choice to the divine with complete trust is what the light aspect of the card says, and giving her willpower to an external authority out of fear of making her own choice is the shadow aspect. And if you look at the card, you can see that the picture depicts somebody who is connected by strings, somewhat like a puppet on a string. So she feels quite drawn in different directions and different ideas in relation to her job, because this is the purpose of the reading tonight for Angela, is I suspect others are pulling her strings in relation to her job, and she may be afraid of making the change. Deep down, I would say, Angela, you know what you need to do in relation to your job. Perhaps you're thinking of changing your job or leaving your job and starting something new. And I would say to you, look very clearly at what's you know, what's driving you? Do you feel like you're a slave in your current job? Do you feel that your connections to that are keeping you stuck? I would suggest that that's what this card is telling me, at least, that you feel somewhat stuck in relation to your job. And what's coming up is a fear that you're going to let others down if you do what you want to do. And let's see what the angels have to say about that. I suspect, Angela, you're thinking about changing, or there's something in the job that's causing you to reevaluate your connection with it. And I would say to you to trust your instincts on that. But let's see what the angels would recommend for Angela in this situation. This is the card that the angels have given. Answered prayers. This card is, as you can see, there's clouds in the background of the angel, and she's looking for an answer. But actually, while she's looking for an answer, and we all look for answers in life, the reality is in the card is that the answer has already been given. The thing is that she may not be listening to the answer. So I would suggest, Angela, that you already know the answer to this question, and that your current instinct is to do something. And I would urge you to follow that because it is correct, and the angels have verified that, and this is validation that they have already answered your prayer in giving you the guidance that you need in relation to your job. So look at the archetype of the slave and ask yourself, what is it that keeps you connected to this situation? And what would give you the freedom to do what you want? Become aware of the archetype of the slave and ask yourself, you know, do you need to take back your power in relation to your decision? Are you putting too much weight on the decisions that others may be giving you, or that others may be suggesting things to you that if you were to make the decision you want to make, that it would impact negatively on them? But is this about them, or is this about you? So I would suggest to you that the cards are telling you to look at what you feel you're obliged to do, and to examine that and say, you know, is that the correct? Should you do what others want you to do in relation to this? Or should you really tune into your own wisdom and decide that you know deep down what's right for you? And I would urge you to follow that. The way that you can maybe get back in touch with what you feel is right for you is to tune into your inner child nature. And the angels have already answered your prayer. And I would say to you, if you want to reconnect with your truth in relation to your job, spend a little time in nature and seek the answers at a place where you normally find inspiration, or a place that you feel safe in nature and that you find is a nice place for you to be alone and to consider your life going forward. We all have a power place. Well, I know I have a power place in nature that I go when I need to consider things. And so I would urge you to, you know, go to that place in nature and find your answers, because the truth is, you know your truth, and the cards are telling you to look at your inner child nature. So go there for your inspiration, and also to tune into your slave, who you feel is manipulating you in relation to your job, because the puppet on the string. We have others interacting with you here that may be making you feel that it's not your decision and you should consider what others have to say first. And that's always a consideration, but not necessarily what drives your decision, because what drives your decision should be your truth. And the angels have already confirmed that you know the answer, because they have been whispering it to you and you just need to trust it. So I hope that's been helpful for you going forward, and let me know if I've touched in on something there in relation to your question. So please put up whatever feedback you have, good, bad or indifferent, whatever it may be in relation to that, Angela. And thanks for submitting your question tonight. The next question that we had was submitted by Claire, and I don't know that Claire is here, but I'm sure she'll watch the video in time if she can't be here live. So clearing away the first reading energy, and we now tune in to the question that Claire submitted. And Claire connects quite regularly with angels, and is quite connected to those who have passed, and generally she finds it quite easy to connect with those who've passed, relatives and so on. But in this instance, she is finding it difficult to make the connection with the aunt, her aunt who has passed, who she feels is around her at the moment and is trying to tell her something. Claire is saving for a house, but she's feeling that, you know, is it going to happen anytime soon, and it's constantly on her mind. And how long is it going to take, which is, she finds distracting her from living her life moment by moment and enjoying her life moment by moment in the now. So she knows the angels are trying to communicate with her, but she just can't seem to clear her head and listen or see the signals, if that makes sense, she says. So what can we tell Claire in relation to her question? So her question is basically how she can get back in tune with the angels and hearing the messages, and how she can begin to, you know, go back to the way she used to live her life, which was basically living it in the moment and enjoying her life, and not feeling distracted by this constant feeling of when is she going to get this house, and when is she going to move forward in that respect, and how she can get clearer guidance from her angels or her past relatives who she feels are around her and trying to connect with her at the moment. So in relation to Claire, she is a life code 4, and life code 4s are all about, they're very strong and stable as a rule, and they have a solid foundation in life, and they're not about, you know, life's fleeting moments and fleeting distractions. They tend to be quite solid people, and they have firm foundations in logic, and they're generally calm, stable energy people as well, and are really good people in an emergency. When others are falling apart, they tend to come into their own and are quite strong and solid and stay firm once they've decided what they want to do or be. And they like to work towards a goal steadily with step-by-step thinking. They're quite logical, patient and tolerant people as a rule. But they're always working towards something, and they're quite patient, as I say, but at times they can get bogged down in their own details and can lose sight of the bigger picture. So they can be extremely stubborn if they are pushed into a corner. So they are generally quite dependable people, very dependable and very loyal. And they're quite strong even when pushed into a corner. So let's look at first in relation to Claire and the question she had in relation to tuning into her guidance and guidance from her past relatives, who she generally finds it easy to receive. But she's having difficulty with, at the moment, being distracted by her conscious saving for a house and getting impatient about when that's going to come to fruition. So let's tune into the archetype child cards in relation to Claire and see which inner child is most active for Claire at the moment in her life. And there's a very clear direction that it's this card. So, okay. Okay. So this card is about the child orphan. So it's like Orphan Annie. She feels quite alone. And in the light aspect of the orphan child, they're quite independent and they're very good at learning how to go it alone. And they generally wouldn't have a fear of surviving. They're quite good survivors, quite good attributes, and quite skillful about surviving on their own. They're not codependent, dependent on others. That's if they're in their light aspect of the archetype of the child orphan. If they're a shadow aspect of the child orphan, then they would feel abandoned and seek inappropriate family connections with other surrogate families. So that's an interesting one. So the child orphan is active for Claire at the moment. So let's keep that in mind as we now connect with the main deck of the archetypes and see what archetype is active and where Claire's actions are coming from in relation to what's going on in her life at the moment. So, okay, Claire, let's see what's going on for you as we tune into the cards, and I choose a card for you. There's actually two cards coming out here. And interesting enough, and it's not, there's no such thing as coincidence. And for those who are having difficulty in finding me, I see a few messages going up. You can connect with me on Yvonne Clark Healing on Facebook is my page, and that's where I'm live at the moment. So check that out. And the two cards that have come out for Claire are the Slave and the Companion. Okay, so we had this Slave card in the previous reading, and you know, it's funny, I put the card in and I shuffled the deck, cleared it, and here it pops out again. So interestingly enough, the Slave is active as well for Claire in her own life. So perhaps this card is interesting because she is finding it difficult to tune into her own guidance and her own connections to the spirit world. And the Slave, as we spoke about for Angela, is all about, in the light attribute, it's about surrendering your power of choice to the divine with complete trust. So that's the light aspect of the card. And the shadow is giving your willpower to an external authority out of fear of making your own choice. So, you know, often when we're working from the disempowering part of any archetype, we're feeling like we aren't in control. We feel like we must do this, we have to do that. And I'm getting a strong sense that for Claire, this card could mean that she feels a slave to, and the part of her question in relation to the distraction she felt from her connection to her guidance, which she's quite good at connecting with the angels. And to me, what's happening here is she feels that this burden of saving for the house is like taking over her life. And to me, it's blocking her energy. So what she needs to do in relation to this, as far as I'm concerned, is the guidance I'm receiving for Claire is that she needs to surrender to her own choice. She knows her truth deep within in relation to this situation and this goal that she is working towards. Just let go of it. She seems to be constantly having it in her head. And sometimes when we hold on too tight to energies, they actually create blockages in our system and blockages to achieving what it is we want to achieve. And the life code 4 is also all about abundance. And there is abundance there for you, Claire. There is abundance in relation to the house and the goal that you're going forward towards, and also in relation to the guidance that you can receive very clearly whenever you just stop trying. and there's a strong sense of, you know, you need to regroup and stop trying so hard. The companion card is the second card that came out for Claire, and it insisted on coming out with the slave. So perhaps she needs, like we have been saying before, you know, a problem shared is a problem halved. And so I suspect that she needs to confide her struggle that she has outlined in her question with a trusted companion. And you know, in the light aspect, it's about loyalty and tenacity and being unselfish. The companion is. And in the shadow aspect, it's about betrayal by misusing a confidence and a loss of personal identity. So perhaps she's afraid to confide. So let's see what the angels have to say in relation to Claire's situation and going forward. So as well as the orphan child, in the archetypes, we have the slave card and we have the companion card active here for Claire. So let's see what the angels are saying in relation to her situation, and specifically in relation to her house and in relation to her ability to connect with them. Okay. The two cards, that have come out for Claire are romance and intention. Okay, so the romance card is about, can be about a romantic relationship, but it can also be about falling in love with something or someone who can help you in your challenge. So in this instance, I'm not getting a sense that it's a romantic card. To me, it's a card, because it came out with the intention card beside it. Sorry, my nose is very itchy tonight. I think it's because I'm connecting. I'm getting a strong connection here for Claire. So the connection would be telling me that this card is for you, Claire, in relation to falling in love with doing something, getting back in touch with something that you love to do. To unblock that energy of constantly thinking and focusing on the goal of the house and saving and when is it going to happen and being totally, because it's like, you know, when we're watching a kettle boil, it takes forever. So it's about letting go and releasing the need to control the situation and to go back into falling in love again with something that you know will lighten your energy, something that will lift your spirit and lift your psychic ability. And you know what this is. So the intention card is, and Claire knows this well because Claire is actually very much connected spiritually. So this card is very much a healer card. And to me it would be giving her a clear message to get back in touch with her inner connection to the spiritual realms. Whether that be in actually doing something, working at healing, doing healings with others, or having a healing herself to clear her energy, is something I would suggest would be a good idea for you, Claire. Also, the intention card is always about what we focus on is what we, you know, is the energy that we bring to what we focus on. In other words, what we intend is always the important thing to focus on. It's not about I want. It's about, you know, what is best for me going forward. And okay, you're saving for a house, but I would say to you in relation to your other issue of connecting with those past who have passed in your family that you normally are clear about connecting with, it's about connecting within first. So if you connect within and spend some time in meditation, not trying to connect with others, but actually reconnecting with your own inner spark. And you are very much the orphan child in that you are quite a strong individual in relation to self-survival. You have that within you and you're very strong on, you know, not having to rely on others. You're quite self-sufficient in your energy in that regard. And while there is an urgency to confide in somebody, or perhaps you are being a confidant for someone else, and that may be interfering with your ability to reconnect with your own energy. So in summary for Claire, I would say letting go of the constant need to focus on your goal of the house. Give yourself the opportunity to reconnect with your own energy and what you truly want. And obviously, in relation to your connection with the other side, you have more than the ability to do that. And you already know that because you've said in your question, you do this quite quickly, quite easily. In the past, it now seems to be blocked. And perhaps what's blocking it is because you perhaps have lost connection with your own self, your inner self, your inner light, your own spiritual part of your life. So it's about reconnecting with that. And I suggest you spend some time reconnecting with your soul energy. And you know how to do this through maybe a therapy such as Reiki or simply just mindfulness and following your energy within to your heart center and connecting with what you know is your truth in your heart. And forget feeling a slave to the house saving and allow yourself to reconnect with what you love, what gives you lift and inspires you in your life and rekindles your energy and clears your energy. So there's a sense of, there's a blockage there, Claire, basically. And what I suggest to you is that you reconnect with the foundation, which you're quite good at, because you're actually Life Code 4, which are excellent at connecting with their firm foundations. So I would say to you, go back to basics, go back to connecting with yourself and allowing yourself to trust your own guidance, because it's coming from your higher source, which you already know. And just stop trying to connect and just simply be with your own energy. Be with your heart center, be with your heart energy. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself a treat of time with you. Not trying to get anywhere, not trying to do anything, just connecting again with your own inner self and your own inner energy system, and allow it to be your guide. And you will find that if you do that 5 or 10 minutes a day, before you know it, you will have rekindled that ability that you need, which is what will give you the clear guidance you have that you need going forward in relation to your question. So I hope that's helped you with your question tonight, Claire. And as I say, please let me know and give me the comments that you may have in relation to it. And hopefully it's been of help in some way. So my next person who contacted me during the week, and thanks Claire for that, and I hope that it has helped you. Okay, so the next person who connected with me for a reading was a guy called Rory. And Rory is a Life Code 8, and his question is he has difficulty being present in his body. He procrastinates. He has physical aches and pains and not enough motivation. He doesn't get as much done as he likes to get done. And his question is how he can motivate himself. So the Life Code 8 is generally, sorry, excuse me. The Life Code 8 in its positive upside aspect is intuitive, kind and prosperous, perceptive and resourceful, and they're very much realists in life. And their downside or shadow side would be tendencies to panic or being a worrier, being forgetful, connecting to trivia, and perhaps being controlling. So the Life Code 8 generally enjoys the fruits of life and appreciates all that they have. They refrain from believing that the grass is greener on the other side. They're all about the intellect. They're very much connected to the the left brain and the logical thinking, and you would be quite a good person for others to confide in, and you will have dealt with other people's issues and challenges, but perhaps may have failed in solving those challenges for them. And so panic may have been your theme at some stage, but also they have the ability to solve their own issues quite quickly when they allow themselves to. So you worry. That's the thing about the Life Code 8. They can be quite deep worriers in relation to their own lives. And okay, so sometimes though they feel that they haven't achieved enough, and Rory is asking in relation to, you know, he's finding it hard to stay present in his body. He's obviously drifting out of body quite a bit, and procrastinating in his life generally, and feeling stuck, basically, is what he's telling me, that he feels stuck and he can't move forward, or he's not allowing himself to see opportunities for moving forward. So the first card, as we did with the other readings, I want to connect with the child that Rory has active as an archetype in his life at present. So I'm being guided to the orphan child. Again, has come out, and this is for Rory. So the orphan child, as we know, is perhaps they, you know, there is a fear as an orphan that, you know, I'm an orphan, and they feel that they're alone and that they don't have much help in making decisions in their lives. They may feel abandoned by others at times, and they may seek companionship or interaction with inappropriate people, let's say, as just, if they're in their shadow aspect of the orphan child, they may connect with just anybody just so they're not alone. And so Rory, in relation to your challenge, let's look at the main archetypes cards here, and I'm only pulling one, but you know, as I said at the start of the video, there's always, the four are active at all times in our lives, and the four are the victim, the prostitute, the saboteur, and the inner child card. So I suspect that, you know, what's going to come out here is going to be quite clear for Rory in relation to his issue. So let's look at the card that's coming out. Okay, so the card that's coming out is, okay, is the Don Juan. So the Don Juan archetype is all about, we know who the, you know, the Don Juan type person is someone who, in their light aspect of this, the Don Juan would be that they show, spotlights their positive, seductive qualities. So they use their ability to impact others for positive means, and using the power of romantic attraction for private agendas. That would be the shadow aspect of the Don Juan. So he's quite a charmer. He's quite an attractive guy, a guy who attracts a lot of people, especially women. And so the Don Juan energy is active for Rory at the moment. But perhaps it's not in its positive aspect that it's active at the moment. So Rory hasn't told me if he has a partner or anything like that, but I'm getting a sense that he hasn't, and that he's well, even if he is in a partnership, that he's feeling quite alone within that partnership. He's not connected, and there's a strong sense that he's not connected with his ability to flow with life, and he's disconnected from himself, even, I would say. And he's kind of said that in his question, in the sense that he's saying he finds it quite hard to stay in his body. So he's feeling disjointed, disconnected in his life. So let's see what the angels would advise Rory in this regard as well. Okay, the ideas and inspiration card has come out. So Rory is, and this is really, look, I mean, the angels are whispering in your ear, Rory, but you're not hearing them. You are sitting, you have loads of ideas, you have loads of brilliant ideas about where to go in your life and what to do. And the thing is, you've just disconnected from them. You're not looking at them, you're looking beyond them, and perhaps even looking in the opposite direction, which is what the angel is doing in this card. So you're not tuning into your own spiritual guidance and ability that you have, and it's innate within you. And I think perhaps what's happening is you're looking outside of yourself for answers, when in actual fact the answers are within us. So I would say all of the abundance of ideas and things that will bring you joy in your life are right beside you, but you can't see them. So I suggest to you that you start to write down how you're feeling. Write it down and look at it. See what you recognise in what you've written. And then I want you to spend 5 minutes in meditation, and I want you to just allow yourself to be. Again, you're not trying to do anything. You're just literally being in your own energy body and being present. And to do that, I would advise you to put your hand on your heart center and physically connect with your heart, because our wisdom, our divine wisdom, is within us. And for me, it's, as far as I'm concerned, this is just my opinion, that our divine wisdom is both in our psyche, but also within our physical heart center as a spiritual chakra. So if you connect with your heart energy, Rory, then you will find your truth. You already know it. You already have the answers beside you, but you're not looking at them because you're disconnecting from them. So there may be a fear there that if you connect with them, that, you know, it's almost, there's a sense that you don't deserve. There's a sense of you feel you don't deserve what's, yeah. I mean, this card has jumped out as I was saying that, and which is the signs card. And the signs are always about, they're right in front of you. Your dream that you want, your goals that you've set in the past but not achieved, are within reach. You are simply not hearing the signs. You're not seeing the signs. You're not seeing the roadway. You're not seeing your path. So I would suggest to you that you connect with your heart center. You can sit quietly for as long as you wish. But I would say prepare the space so that it's setting the intention of connecting with your own physical energy again, but also with your own inner wisdom. And as I say, that to me is stored in your heart center. So connecting with your heart center and being conscious of slowing your breathing and your heart rate, and just tuning in to your own wisdom again. All of what you want is within your reach, and you've been avoiding it. So you need to find out what it is that's stopping you from facing the reality that you can have whatever you want. What is it within you that's stopping you from moving towards that? Because literally you can put your hand out and take any of your desires and bring them into fruition. You have that ability, and it's about tuning into your Don Juan to attract it back into your life. So even if it's about, you know, a connection with a physical person or whatever it may be, you need to tune into the energy that the Don Juan has, who comes in with confidence, not from a cocky kind of, you know, I'm arrogance type attraction. It's about tuning into what you feel good about within yourself. and tuning into that energy and that truth about yourself, and knowing it and feeling it and allowing yourself to feel it, that you're actually a really nice person. You're a very good person with good intention for others and for yourself. But you perhaps have been solving giving your energy away to others and solving their issues and staying out of your own body because you don't want to face your own. So all that you want is within, it's within reach. You can bring it into your life anytime you desire. But first, to do that, you must connect with your own inner guidance. And you've been avoiding doing that. So stay in your body by connecting physically, putting your hand on your heart center and tuning into the energy you feel physically within your body. Physically within your body. Even if it, want to change your heart from your heart to another part of another energy center, so maybe your solar plexus, your power center, where you hold your will and your power to survive and your power to bring to fruition what you want in your life. And just allow whatever guidance to come through for you. You don't have to go out of body to get guidance. You can actually, the challenge in evolving in this life is actually to stay in body and receive the guidance from your higher sources. So it's not about going out of body and being up there with the angels and up there with your guides and your divine guides. It's about bringing that energy into your physical body. That's when you can bring things into fruition in your life. So you can know all this information but not bring it back into reality with you in your body. So allow yourself to feel your physical connection with your heart center or any of the other energy centers. And if you're not familiar with the chakras, there's loads of stuff on the internet about chakras and how to connect with them. Or you can look on my website in relation to that, or send me any kind of email or correspondence if you wanted to know more about how to connect. It's basically, though, really just being with your energy, being with your heart center, allowing your inner wisdom to answer your questions for you, because you already know the answers. And the reason you have pains and aches is because you've been resisting. There's a tug of war going on in your energy body between your physical body and your soul, and also your inner wisdom. There's a tug of war. You're resisting knowing the truth, but you already know it, but you're resisting actually admitting it to yourself. So once you stop struggling and allowing instead, then you will get the guidance you need. You will be able to stay in your physical body, and you will be able to bring whatever it is you want into fruition in your life. So you are quite a strong individual, and you have done this before. You've brought whatever you wanted, you've manifested before in your life, and you know you can do it. You can trust that, but it's about actually connecting back into yourself and your own strengths to allow yourself to do that. And the archetype that you need to have conscious awareness of is the Don Juan, and the energy of the Don Juan, whose confidence and trust in his own wisdom and trust in his own abilities, and who isn't afraid to move forward and move out in the world and show himself for who he is, exactly who he is, and be okay with whatever reaction he gets, because he is being true to him, and that's the energy of confidence and self-belief and self-truth and self-worth as well. So, look up the archetype of the Don Juan and see how he and that energy of the Don Juan is what you need in your life now at the moment. So I hope that's helped, Rory, in relation to your question. You have all the answers you need. The angels have just told me that. You already know your truth. but it's about staying in your body and not struggling with the reality, which you already know you need to do. And following up on the Don Juan archetype and becoming aware of that energy and bringing that energy back into reality in your life. So thank you, Rory, for that question. And we're moving on now to Gail in relation to her question, which is that she's been through quite a traumatic health challenge, and she feels quite alone in her life at the moment and wonders about what her future holds. So Gail is a life code 9, and the life code 9, which actually I am myself, is highly sensitive and excuse me, is instinctively tuned into and intuitive, both psychically, and quite often they are empaths, so they pick up on everyone's energy around them. They see the collective unconscious in others. They see what, through the words that people speak, to actually the reality of what people are trying to say, and also what they're not saying. So they often reflect back as well to people the reality of what their actions are in the world, and often that can make for the 9 being someone who is often seen as, or being blamed for being the one who's awkward or raising issues for people, because they're sensitives and they're psychic and they can tune into that. You know, it's an automatic thing for the 9 to be able to do that. But the one thing that the 9s have is an awful lot going on in their heads, and they find they suffer a lot with mind chatter, and focus can be an issue for the 9 because they've so much energy coming at them, because they're so attuned to everything around them and everybody around them, that even by just shaking hands with someone, they're connecting with their energy very strongly, and they often, you know, they're psychically connected. So, you know, there's a lot going on in the head, and it can be a challenge for the 9s to still the mind and still their inner focus. But once they can do that, then they can achieve anything that they set their minds to. The 9s are quite good on their own, but they're even better when they're on their own and have a clear direction. You're deeply perceptive as a 9 and look for the meaning in anything and everything that you interact with in your life. They are the lifelong searchers of the tree of life. They're the ones who search. They are not often clear about exactly what it is they're looking for, though, and but they have a profound connection with anything that has a deep meaning in life. So they are often spiritual and often seek deeper truths than most, and they need to feel that deep connection in order to be connected fully to their own truth going forward. So they do wrestle with their emotions and will have strong life challenges, ups and downs and dramas, and in Gail's instance a health challenge, which was a very strong and serious health challenge. And so that's part of the course for a 9. These challenges are so that they can gain control of their emotions, because that's a challenge for the 9. They're often in their heads and not often connected with their heart centres. in relation to themselves. They're very connected to the other people's hearts and what they want and need, and clear about what's good for them, but they're not so clear about what they truly desire within all of the time. They if they put their mind to it, they can do that, but they often resist that because of the constant confusion, or not confusion, but constant chatter going on in their minds, and their constant interactions because of their sensitivity and psychic abilities. But embracing that, the spiritual side of their own energy body and how they connect and how they can control their emotions and their own psychic energies, is something that brings them deep peace. But it's often quite a journey to get there. So, Gail, in relation to your question, what's going on with you at the moment and what's coming up for you in the near future? So, Gail has survived a serious illness, and that's fantastic news and fair play. It requires a lot of strength to do that, and challenge, as I say, to overcome. Let's see what child is active for Gail at the moment. Okay, so the magical child is the child that is active at the moment. So the light aspects of the magical child, Gail, are seeing the potential for sacred beauty in all things, the belief that everything is possible. And the shadow aspect, or the disempowering part of the magical child, would be when they deny that and they go into pessimism, depression, and not having a belief in miracles, believing that energy and action are not required for growth. So, as you can see, the magical child is often alone in the world, or at least even if they're in a relationship, they often feel they're alone. And especially as a 9, the 9s are quite, in their positive sides, they're quite good at being alone. But it's not always, they don't always experience it that way in life, especially when there's an emotional challenge. You know, our awareness of our aloneness and our lack of support is often very real for us as 9s, and often very real when we're facing a challenge of on the emotional side. And a serious illness like you've been through, Gail, is one that will bring up all sorts of challenges on the emotional side of your life. But bear in mind that you are a magical child, and you have that magical child active as your inner child at the moment, because it's almost, you feel it's like magic that you've overcome this illness. And to some extent, you know, people may see it that, you know, only those who are lucky, is how people would generally put it, survive such a serious challenge. But it's having a belief, and I suspect you are very strong in your beliefs about your ability to survive. And the magical child would be very strong in relation to their belief of survival. So let's see what the other archetype is that's coming up at the moment for Gail, as she faces what's in the near future for Gail at the moment. Okay, so the card that comes out is the Beggar card. Okay, so this is the archetype that is active in you, Gail, at the minute, or that you're acting from on an unconscious level, perhaps, at the moment. And a lot of the time, the archetypes are an unconscious actively, unconsciously in our lives. So the light attribute of the beggar is someone who confronts empowerment at the level of the physical survival, awakens the spiritual authority of humility and compassion and self-esteem. So the beggar would not be, then that's the positive side. The negative side would be dependence on others to the exclusion of effort on their own behalf. So they're actually, in the shadow side, they would be perhaps tuning into looking for others to solve their issues. So only you know which side of this card is active for you truthfully in your life at the moment. Because it's an unconscious one, what you need to ask yourself is a number of questions in relation to your actions that you're taking, or your beliefs about yourself going forward. And if you're not sure which aspect is active for you, what I suggest you do is ask yourself, are you depending on others too much at the moment? Or do you depend on your own truth? Do you depend on your own guidance? Do you look within for strength? Or do you look to others for strength? And we're all human, and we all look to others at different times, and especially at times of huge challenge. But often the answers that we seek, that we long for, sometimes can come through others, or what they say can spark something within. But really, the actions of others act to spark our own inner wisdom. So you have survived, and that card is all about survival. So you've survived a very big challenge, and it's about what has that awakened. And I would ask yourself, what has this survival that you have experienced, because you are the one who survived, and you are the one whose energy got you to this point. So your self-belief is that you are a survivor, because you are and have survived the challenge. But what has that survival awakened within you? And how can you use that to move forward in your life? So what has that given you on a sense of within yourself? So what have you learned from that challenge and your ability to overcome it? So what can you learn about that for you? Not about others, but what has it taught you? And what has it awakened within you? And, perhaps your moving forward would be about sharing your challenge and how you overcame it with others who may be experiencing what you have experienced, and perhaps doubt their energy and doubt their ability to survive. So perhaps your truth is about tuning in to your magical child and spreading the energy of your magical child to others who are in similar circumstances. Often we feel alone. I mean, aloneness is something that we can all experience at different times in our lives. If we're not in a relationship, because of the norm of, man and woman and relationship and support from the male energy if we're a female, and vice versa, is a natural progression of life, and it's one that is age old, and so we all expect to be in a relationship. But often we're not in a physical relationship, so we feel we're missing out, we feel we've lost out on something. But to me, and I know it's true because I've actually been in relationships and not been in relationships. So I've lived my life both alone and in interaction with others in a number of relationships, but not, I mean, don't get me wrong, I haven't had a huge amount of relationships in my life personally, romantically, I mean. But those that I have had have taught me a lot. And the periods which I have spent alone have also taught me an awful lot about me. And I've had to dig deep within my soul when I've been alone to find answers for me, to find my truth. And often what I saw as a challenge, I now know was a necessary part of my evolution as I went forward in this life on earth. And so even the bad relationships or the bad things that happened in relationships, I learned a lot from. Didn't know it at the time, obviously, because I felt, you know, we immediately went into my victim archetype of poor me, and look what's happened to me, and look what he did to me. And that's a normal reaction because we all have the victim archetype. But then I moved into what empowers me going forward. So what can I do for me? What have I learned from this challenge that can help me to move forward in my life? So Claire, what I'm saying to you is look within to find what this life challenge has been for you. Why? I can tell you it's teaching you something. And the angels are telling you that surrender and release. So let go. And there's the angel holding an urn, and out of the urn has a crack. So we all have a crack in our experiences in life, in that we're not all perfect. We are in fact imperfect humans, and we were made that way for a reason, because we have to experience challenges, and those challenges allow us to express our emotions. And as the 9, as I said, the life code 9 will have a lot of emotional drama in their life, because that's how they learn to tune into their emotional energy. Because, as I said, they're all about being in their head, because they're very psychic people, they're very intuitive, so they're very connected to others on an intuitive level, and they can pick up on everyone else's energy. But it's about going within and picking up on your own energy and trusting it, allowing it and trusting it. And the only way, there's a number of ways to do that, but one of the ways the angels suggest to you to do this is to surrender and release. So it's about the darkness is behind you. It's done, it's over. And you're now in recovery, and you're now in that period of allowing yourself to let go of it. Let go of the challenge. Instead, connect to the lesson. Connect to the wisdom that challenge has brought you. Because believe me, it will have brought you numerous emotional wisdom. And often we need to cry the tears. You know, I've cried many tears in my life, and it's a very healthy thing to do. In fact, release is one of the most beneficial and helpful things for our soul going forward. Being honest, allowing ourselves to feel the pain, feel the aloneness, feel the loneliness, feel it all, feel that energy. Allow yourself to express that energy in tears or in writing about it in your life. In your journal for yourself, or for sharing if you want to share your journey to inspire others who are perhaps challenged by this similar challenge. Or initially it's about starting with yourself and releasing it for yourself. Allow yourself to cry the tears of feeling sorry for yourself. Allow yourself to jump into your victim archetype whenever you need to, because you have to be truthful with yourself. And it's about being very truthful and learning the lesson that the challenge brought, because it had the huge lessons come as huge challenges. And I know that because I've experienced them. And sometimes we try to be strong and swallow it down and swallow the emotion, but the emotion, if we swallow it, will block our system and it will come out as another illness. So what was it that you were holding in that you didn't release, that brought about the block or challenge in your energy body that led to the illness in the first place? So it's about learning not to do that going forward. It's about learning that being alone, you know, you can be in a room full of people and still feel alone. You can be in a relationship and still be alone. You know, and I was in those relationships as well. Outwardly, others felt, God, you know, the perfect couple. And inwardly for me, I was very much alone. So not every, you know, the book, don't judge the book by the cover, you know. Look deeper within yourself, and the angels are guiding you that the past hurt and challenge is healed. It's behind you, and it's now about acceptance of that, surrendering to that knowledge, surrendering to that truth that it's over, and allowing yourself to release whatever pain remains in your energy body about that. Or maybe you feel angry about getting ill in the first place. So release that anger, write it down, write what you're angry about, burn it, you know, get it out of your energy body and allow yourself to tune back in to the magical child who's longing to come out from within. And, you know, spend time with yourself, be kind to yourself, treat yourself, give yourself the love and attention that you need, because the truth is we can't ever be in a relationship and love another if we don't fully love ourselves and respect ourselves and our own truth and our own self-worth and our own self-belief. And if we aren't strong in that, then to me we're not going to be able to give it to anyone else, because we don't have it within ourselves to give in the first place. So my guidance for you, Gail, going forward is you aren't going to be alone all of your life, but you are now. This is a transient point in your life, a very big transient point, one of which you will learn a lot from, one you will look back on in years to come and know with 2020 vision what you've learned. But for now, be kind. Treat yourself as you think the partner that you perhaps long to have, that you want in your life. Treat you as your loving partner of the future will treat you. But do it now for you, for the right reasons, and learn the lessons that the challenge brought. So that's my reading for Gail tonight. And lastly, I have a reading for so thanks, Gail, and I really hope this has helped you, and please leave the feedback that you have in relation to the reading that I've just given you. I hope it's helped you going forward in your life. So Fiona now is the last one I'm going to do tonight, although I do see one person has asked for one card. Malgorazzi, I'm not sure if Atta, I don't know how to pronounce your name, so I apologise for that, but I will do a card after Fiona's reading. So Fiona has asked for simply what's in store for her at the moment. She hasn't given me any indication of what's going on, what the challenge is, or anything else. So I've just literally, she's asked what's going on, what's in store for the future. So I'm bringing that intention into the cards as I prepare for this reading with Fiona. So hopefully, Fiona, you've managed to get online. I know you were having trouble earlier finding me online, but perhaps you'll find this video afterwards and get your reading. So, okay, so again, we're going to tune into the life code for Fiona, and she is, again, like Angela earlier, the life code 3. The life code 3 are beautiful, powerful energies, because they're the mother energy. They're the bubbly person the person who people love being around, that they get great energy from. They're always enthusiastic and they learn easily, but they're great lovers and they're entertaining and friendly people as a rule on the upside. And the downside of the mother life code 3 would be that sometimes they can smother people with love and become obsessive or overly analytical. So the challenge for you as the life code 3 in this life is to feel comfortable in your own skin. So that's the challenge mostly for the 3 energy in the life codes in relation to the Kabbalah and the Tree of Life and numerology. So I'm focusing on the child card and the asking for the child that's most active in Fiona's psyche at the moment for whatever is going on in her life today. And I'm told that the eternal child is the child for Fiona. So this is the archetypal child that's most active for you at the moment, Fiona. So the light attributes of the eternal child are that they're determined to remain young in body, mind and spirit, and have an ability to see things with fresh eyes. So that's the light attribute of the archetype of the child, eternal. The shadow attribute would be an inability to grow up and be responsible, an extreme dependency on others for physical security. So if you're experiencing the shadow aspect of the eternal child in your life, perhaps you're feeling extremely dependent on others at the moment, or feeling vulnerable and not willing to accept responsibility for yourself and grow up and take that responsibility and rely on others for your physical security and well-being and even self-belief perhaps. So let's look at what's coming up next for Fiona according to the archetypal cards, and we'll then tune into the energy of the angels as we look at those as well. So Fiona's card is 2 have come out, Fiona. They are the gambler and the mentor. Okay, so the mentor in its light attribute is passing on wisdom and refining a student's character. And the shadow aspects of the mentor would be inability to allow the student to move on to the role of master, imparting false instruction. So the mentor energy in the archetypes is about wisdom. So the mentor would have the wisdom, but is she willing to pass it on? Or is she going to use that knowledge in a destructive way, as in not being willing to pass it on to others and using it as a tool to control others or manipulate others? So that would be the shadow aspect of the mentor. But generally the mentor is someone who shares information, shares wisdom with the world, guides people, is willing to give of themselves and their energy and their knowledge to help others. So that's an active archetype, Fiona, at the moment in your life that you possibly aren't consciously aware of, but I'm now telling you you need to be consciously aware of. So as I said at the beginning, these archetypes aren't always in our conscious awareness. So it's about first becoming aware which ones are active and are guiding our actions at present, or our behaviours, and looking at perhaps asking questions about how to change if those behaviours that we're acting out at the moment aren't positive. Then how do we change that around for ourselves? So what would be the opposite of that, and how do you start to do that instead? So the gambler is the other card that wanted to come out with that mentor card, and for you, Fiona. And the light attribute of the gambler is a willingness to follow intuition even when others doubt you. And the shadow aspect would be relying on luck rather than hard work. So flying blind is what the gambler does a lot of the time. They fly blind. They take their chance. They they look at, I won't look up, I won't research, I won't do any of that. I'll just, I'll trust and I'll just take a chance. So the gambler is always is often looking for the big win. They're often looking for the quick fix, the quick thing that was going to solve all their problems, and they search for that, and they follow schemes. Every scheme they hear, oh, this is the answer I'm looking for, and perhaps they don't research it or step back and look at the bigger picture. So often they need to be also emotionally involved with everything they're doing. So they give their all or nothing. They can withdraw their knowledge, they can withdraw their help, their ability to help others. They can withdraw that if it suits them. So are you flying blind, Fiona, in your life at the moment? Are you taking risks? Are you not researching? Are you going with everything that you see and read, or are you questioning enough? It's about tuning into your inner mentor, and the eternal child is active. So if the eternal child is active, which I believe it is with Fiona at this time, then maybe you are looking at life through maybe rose-coloured glasses as opposed to clear glasses, because the eternal child loves to believe that everything and everything's wonderful, and there's no need to make any change, and everything's hunky-dory here, nothing to see, nothing to do, and they're looking at the surface only. And then deep beneath that, there may be challenges that they're avoiding, and so their inability to accept responsibility for those challenges within themselves going forward. So the angel card that is coming out for Fiona is the soulmate card, and the soulmate card is all about communication and connecting with our soul and the energy of our soul. And sometimes it can indicate that in the near future, there's going to be a connection, a physical connection with a relationship of somebody who's going to come into your life and be your soulmate. And often people have the view that your soulmate will be the one who, everything will just flow wonderfully, and it'll be like, the eternal child and the rose-coloured glasses, and everything will be hunky-dory and there'll be no problems and no challenge involved. But actually a soulmate relationship is the relationship that will challenge you the most, because communication is the key to the successful soulmate relationship. And if you notice in the card, both of the depicted characters have their hands behind their backs because they may be hiding something. So the question in this card is about communication, and what are they actually fully communicating, or are they holding back? So reading the whole cards that came out for Fiona together, I would say what's in store for Fiona is possibly a relationship that's going to be a soulmate relationship, that coming in, and there is a risk going on in your energy at the moment. So you're taking risks But perhaps I would take that card as a question mark. Are you taking risks? Are you fully researching things before you jump in? Or are you flying blind and trusting in everything will be cool because of your belief that the eternal child has, that, I don't have to take responsibility here, I'll just go and do it anyway and see what happens. And sometimes that's a good energy to have because it can motivate us. But we all know that it's also about being truthful with ourselves and researching what's going on. So the mentor is all about wisdom, and the two cards, the mentor and the gambler, were tied together for you, Fiona. So to me, that would be telling you have an inner wisdom. You have all of the knowledge within you, and you're somebody who can impart that knowledge very, very easily and very powerfully to others. So you would make a good, wise mentor and healer and helper for others, and you share your care for others very willingly. So you're very true to the mentor archetype in your reading here. But also there's a question mark that came out with the mentor, which is, are you jumping in too quickly, or is there something that you need to research more about? So that is my reading for you, Fiona. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and please leave the feedback on the comments in the video. And just to finish off, what I'm going to do is, there's a few people who've asked for and I'm afraid, because they're not Irish names or like English, I know they are English, but they're not English names that I'm used to reading. So unfortunately, I will have difficulty pronouncing them. But okay, I'm going to try. And the first one was from let's see, Malgorzata. So if you're still with us, Malgorzata, I'm just going to pull one of the archetype cards in relay, because I have no idea what your intention is. You've just asked me to take out one card, so I'm going to choose one card of the archetypes and one from the angel deck in relation to, and one has dropped out, so I'm going to use that one because it wants to come out. So the first one is for the attribute or the archetype rather that's active for you, Malgorzata, is the trickster archetype. So the trickster archetype in its light or positive or empowering side is transcending convention, stuffiness and predictable behavior. So the trickster is someone who moves through the crowd with ease and can master all interactions with others with very great ease. And the shadow aspect of that would be manipulating others through duplicity. So being unfaithful or untrue or devious in your interactions with others. So I would say to you that the trickster is active in you at the moment as an archetype. So being aware of that means that you need to ask yourself, are you moving well through your life and your interactions with others? And are you being truthful with others in relation to your interactions? Or are you manipulating others by not being truthful in your actions? And there's the angels have the card jumped out of retreat. So it's like, you've tread a careful path through life, but now it's time perhaps to retreat and review. So perhaps maybe, you know, I suggest that maybe you might have been a victim of the trickster, perhaps in your life at the moment. Maybe somebody else has treated you inappropriately and you need to retreat and regroup. So, but the archetypes in relation to yourself, the trickster, might be, have you tricked others, and is this why you need to retreat? Or have you been truthful with others, and while you can interact well with others, and there is a sense that you have that ability to interact well with others and share your light with others very, very easily, and, you know, like without much energy required on your behalf. You're quite, you know, quite good social skills, but are you using them for the right reason? So there's a question raised in relation to your the origin of your actions at the moment. Is it coming from the light or the shadow? And questioning yourself in relation to the trickster. Are you in fact fooling others, or are you actually fooling yourself? And do you need to retreat to find that out? So that's the reading for Malgorzata, and thank you for that question and looking for that reading. And the last one that I'm going to do, or if I can get, there's two more. Adebimbe. I hope I've pronounced that right. As I say, forgive me if I haven't. I'm going to just pull out one of each deck, or whatever comes out for Adebimpe, as I do this reading quickly. Okay. Two beautiful cards. The Storyteller, Adebimpe, and the Nature card. So, the Storyteller, in its light aspect, or in its positive aspect, is having an ability to experience and express life through stories and symbols. And in its shadow aspect, would be making up tales that harm others. So, you know, kind of being creative with the truth, or not being honest, in other words. So the Storyteller. So this is the archetype that's active for you in your life at the moment. Is it this light aspect or the shadow aspect of it that's active? And there's a sense of, there's a lot going on in your head, and it's about, I suggest to you that, you know, you tune into your archetype of the Storyteller in relation to sharing your story with others. So how do you share your truth with others? Do you share it truthfully, or do you share it untruthfully? So do you use your story in life to positively or negatively impact on those around you? Because the Storyteller is an active archetype for you at the moment, and you need to look at that. The Nature card, the angels are working to bring you this card. And this card, the Nature card, is about you are almost on your path in life, but not quite. And there's something holding you back. So it's about, do you need to tell the story of that? Do you need to tune into what that story is? What is it that's holding you back? Because there is something, you're just, or there or thereabouts in getting what you want, but there's something holding you back from getting it. And it's something that you need to release from within yourself in order to do that. And perhaps you need to do some journaling for yourself in order to release whatever that is. So being truthful with yourself, and thanks for your feedback. That's very true. I use my story positively. Great. That's fantastic. And the truth is you're almost getting what you want, but there's something, just something from your past that you haven't released. And it's about how do you release that. And with the archetype of the storyteller active for you at the moment, then I suggest that you need to share your story with you. So go into a place in nature where you feel connected, comfortable and safe, and allow the angels, tune into the angels and allow them to give you the guidance. Just don't try, because it's in trying often that we perceive ourselves as failing. So instead of trying, just be in nature, because nature has the answer for you. Your abundance is around the corner, but there's some small thing from your past that you haven't released. So share your own story with yourself in truth. And as you positively share your stories with others, it's equally important that you share your own story with yourself. In other words, tune into your own truth within yourself about the past. What is it that's holding you back? And unconsciously, the answer will come into your mind as you ask yourself that question. Connecting with nature connects us with ourselves, because we're divine, nature is divine. It's all part of the same energy. And our divine part is the nature and natural part within us. So thanks for that, and I hope that has answered what's going on for you at the moment, Adibimpe. And do let me know if it seems to be somewhat on line with what you have going on for you at the moment. So just let me know if that helps. So now we're going to read one more, and that is oh, that's fantastic. Thanks a million. You made my day. Love you loads. That's great. Thank you very much. And I love everybody too. And thank everybody for joining in. And the last one that I want to just take out one card of each for is Carmel. So the last one of tonight is Carmel McCrudden. And this is one card for Carmel from each deck. Okay, so the Hermit is the attribute that it is active for Carmel at the moment in her life, and the Angel card is the card of balance. Okay, so the light attribute of the Hermit is he seeks solitude to focus intently on the inner life and serves personal creativity. The shadow aspect of the Hermit is he withdraws from society out of fear or negative judgment of others and refusing to help those in need. So the Hermit is often an indication, from my own experience of life, is that we often activate our Hermit when we have been hurt, or when we feel out of control or out of balance in our lives. And I know nothing about Carmel's situation, so I'm tuning into my own psychic intuition in relation to answering this. So Carmel, if you're online, you could maybe give us feedback on that. So the Angel card is about balance. And Carmel, I suspect that you feel your life is out of balance at the moment and you need to find your balance. And the Hermit is about finding that time, giving yourself the time, taking the time out to spend time alone, to find your answers and to allow yourself to creatively be inspired to know what it is you need to move forward, because I suspect you feel a bit stuck and your life is out of balance. In order to, the Angel card is also about feeling that there's parts of your life out of balance, but not all. And it's about getting everything back into alignment. And often when we seek to do that, one of the ways you can do it is to tune into yourself and ask yourself, what part of my life do I feel least happy with? What's the part of your life? Is it your relationships? Is it your social life? Is it your work, your financial situation? What part of your life is out of kilter, out of balance with the rest? And trust the answer that comes immediately for that. And the Hermit is about taking the time then to journal, to spend time with yourself. And I use journaling a lot, and what I call automatic writing. And I tune into my own heart centre, and I just literally pick up the pen and I allow myself to tune into my own wisdom, connecting with that, and allow the pen to just move across the page and allow myself to just write whatever comes into my mind. And often that kick-starts the creative process of finding your own answers. And so automatic writing, or if you want to consciously journal about it, but just allow your mind to flow onto the page. I sometimes do that too, and that's what I call a mind dump. So just dump all the stuff that's in your head onto the page and discard it. It's not about reading it or trying to analyse it, because that's just going to send you back into the spiral of, what put you out of place in the first instance. Anyway, it's about, thanks Carmel, thanks for connecting. Great, I'm on key. So fantastic. So you do write, so that's great. So I suggest to you that you take the time out and do that at the moment, because your Hermit is very active and you need to get your life back in balance. And to do that, you need to do some writing. Do some creative writing for yourself to find your answers. So thanks to everybody who joined in, and I'm going to leave it at that because I've stayed on far longer than I expected to. But I hope you've all enjoyed the readings that I've done and given you, and that you will join me next week for, I hope to do the reading session once a month. So you've plenty of time between this and the last Wednesday in May to get me, give me any of your questions for the next reading session live, which will be on the last Wednesday of May. So next week we'll be back to our normal midlife wisdom series, where I'll be talking about a midlife topic or challenge that people have, based on the clients that I have coming to me at the moment and the clients in the past. I know what the midlife challenges are, and we'll talk about that next week again. So thanks for coming, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and that the people who got the reading, thanks for the questions. And please give me your feedback on the readings, give me your feedback on the session today, share the session with friends and family. And because even though the problem or issue or question relates to the individual person, we can all learn, because we're all connected, and the archetypes are all about the collective unconscious, and we all are part of the collective unconscious. So by listening to the answers I've given to other people on this video, then you will gain insight into your own questions and your own answers for you going forward in relation to what archetypes may be active for you too. So thanks again, and I look forward to working with you again in next Wednesday at 9 on Facebook Live. And for those who have trouble connecting with me on Facebook Live, please know I do this on my page mostly, but you can also see it on my profile. And my page on Facebook is Yvonne Clark Healing. So, or you can connect through my profile on Facebook, Yvonne Clark, which has my page listed, my business page listed on it. So thanks again, and I look forward to next week and to more challenge in relation to midlife and giving you some help in relation to that. So thanks for that, and take care, and I look forward to seeing you then. Have a wonderful week, everybody. See you then. Take care. Bye.